Chapter 2162. Ce pressed his thin lips against Yunjian's ear, gently biting her beautiful lips as he said this. He knew that her ears were the most sensitive part of her body. Slightly shaken by Ci's numbing breath, Yunjian unconsciously wrapped her arms around his neck. The charming and gentle atmosphere in this mid-grade hotel room rose at the fastest speed. The two of them hugged each other like ice and fire. It wasn't considered luxurious here. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2163. If Yunjian wasn't so cold-hearted and couldn't be bothered with these trivial matters, Song Yu wouldn't just have his legs crippled. His head would be rolling on the ground. With that, without waiting for Mo Lianhua's reaction, Yunjian walked away in a relaxed manner. 1, 2, 3, again. Get serious. Watch me clap my hands to the beat. 1, 2. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. A. Chapter 2164. When Kai Huiling saw Yunjian, she felt a burst of anger in her heart. She thought that it was natural for a short, fat, and ugly girl like Zhu Huili to become a laughing stock after being pushed by her. However, back then, because she had pushed Zhu Huili, Yunjian had helped Zhu Huili trample on her in public. Kai Huiling had always been brooding over this matter. Today, when she saw that Yunjian had come to do her makeup so late, she thought that Yunjian definitely did not know how to do it herself. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for the reading. A. Chapter 2165. After that, Yunjian didn't wait for Kai Huiling's response. She reached out and pulled open the curtain of the large tent and walked out. You. Kai Huiling heard Yunjian's words and was so angry that she wanted to pull open the curtain of the large tent and chase after her. Sister Huiling, don't lower yourself to her level. This kind of person is just sour grapes. With Sister Huiling's creativity, I can guarantee that tonight's first place will definitely be ours. Besides, she didn't. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for the reading. A. Chapter 2166. Disguise? Everyone present was stunned when they heard the boy's words. Yunjian's hands were not touching up his makeup, but, disguise? This boy was recognized as the ugliest in the entire martial arts club. Even he himself had a great objection to his appearance. He was used to being ridiculed for being ugly. At the same time, Yunjian was already halfway through touching up his makeup with a deft touch. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for the reading. A. Chapter 2167. Yunjian's yes made all the boys and girls in the martial arts club scream. They even forgot that they were going to perform martial arts in front of the whole school later. They surrounded Yunjian one by one in surprise. Oh my God, President, you're so awesome. I feel that our president is omnipotent. These were the exclamations from a few boys. As for the girls, this chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2168. Kai Huiling was really relieved now. No matter how amazing that Yunjian was, she could reach the heavens. What was the use of that? Even if she really came up with a better idea, if she went on stage without makeup, she would give the judges a bad first impression. This way, she might not even want to go on stage anymore, right? Kai Huiling flashed a big smile. Fold your underwear a little smaller. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2169. At this moment, the members of the martial arts club were already standing under the stage and waiting. Seeing that Yun Jian was late, they asked Mo Bufan in a slightly anxious tone, "Vice President, why hasn't the president come yet? Would he be able to make it in time?" After all, she hadn't even put on makeup yet. The members of the martial arts club asked worriedly. Mo Bufan was the vice president of the martial arts club, which was decided after Yun Jian became the president of the martial arts club. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. To support the author, please go to the original website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2170. Kai Huiling was indeed astonished. Because when she first heard the members of the martial arts performance go on stage, the moment the music played, Kai Huiling actually said in her heart, "Ha! This music choice is pretty good. It gives people a blood-boiling shock. But what's the use of choosing good music? It's still not someone else's. It's not like I created it myself." Just as this thought came to her mind, Kai Huiling even wanted to turn her head to look at the elementary school she had been playing with recently. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2171. However, Yun Jian's right foot suddenly stomped on the ground. She leaped up from the audience and went straight over the height of the stage, reaching a height of 2.5 meters. When Mo Bufan and Zhou Huntao saw her running over, they jumped from the audience to the stage. When the two of them saw this, they half squatted down and put their hands together. Before they put their hands together, Mo Bufan half squatted down and picked up two things from the ground. He threw them in the direction Yun Jian was leaping over. Yun Jian, catch! This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2172. When the old judge heard this, he was so scared that he immediately jumped from his seat to the ground. He squatted down and picked up his wig. He even put on an expression as if nothing had happened and seriously put the wig back on his head. He gently waved his hand and suppressed the few students who were making a fuss. The old man said with a solemn expression, "Silence. Silence." At this moment, Kai Huiling, who was standing in the distance and still wearing her extremely revealing dance outfit, looked at the old man with a stiff expression. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for the reading. A. Chapter 2173. The boy did not expect CE to jump out of nowhere. He did not expect CE to be so powerful. Not only did she kick him to the ground, but she also stepped on his head. The boy was already hurting from being kicked to the ground, but CE had stepped on his head with the intention of crushing his head with a stomp. The boy started to have difficulty breathing. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2174. When CE held Yun Jian's hand and walked over, the auntie who had set up the stall was still holding a pair of matching outfits in her hands. She was thinking about how to advertise and promote her outfit. When she heard CE's words, the auntie was stunned as she held the matching outfits in her hands. Pack, all? Did she meet a tycoon? Okay. Okay. I'll pack it right away. The auntie reacted quickly. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for your reading. A. Chapter 2175. This lace dress was so thin that one could see the hand holding the dress through the black lace at the front of the dress. Not to mention wearing it on her body. It was a black bunny girl lingerie and it was so thin that it was as if she was not wearing it at all. However, it was even more interesting when she wore it. Ce bit her earlobe. Her earlobe was the most sensitive part of her body. Yunjian's body went numb and her face turned pale. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2176. Yunjian, who had been tricked by Ce into carrying her into the bedroom, did not even have time to change her clothes. After Ce carried her into the bedroom, he kicked the bedroom door shut, pressed her against it, and kissed her wildly. In the end, he did not even take off her clothes. He only tore the clothes that needed to be worn, and then, it was a romantic night. It was not until 3:00 in the morning that he finally stopped. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. A. Chapter 2177. Gu Yunjian's parents had passed away. Later on, after Gu Junjian became successful, he rarely returned home. When Gu Yunjian's father was still alive, Gu Yunjian's marriages were all arranged by the family. When people of the same status married another person of the same status, even if the man and woman had no feelings for each other, they would still be forced to be together. Hence, Gu Junjian did not have any love for his ex-wife. Perhaps after spending some time together, he still had feelings for her. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for the reading. A. Chapter 2178. Since Qin Yiru's words made Ce happy, she naturally agreed. However, at night, she still needed to warm up. The next morning, Yunjian woke up early. She ran a few laps around the city before returning. Gu Junjian had already prepared a jeep for her. As Gu Xian was not in the country and was still furthering his studies abroad, only Gu Junjian, Qin Yiru, Yunjian, and Yunyi went on this trip. Gu Junjian was not originally part of the Dragon Gate. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2179. When this thunderous voice rang out, even Uncle Wen's heart trembled violently. After Uncle Wen trembled violently and reacted, he immediately said respectfully to the person who was roaring with a thunderous voice, "Old Master." The person who came was none other than the old master of the Gu family, Gu Rumu. Gu Rumu had a masculine face. Listening to this battle array, his aura was also incomparably tough. However, he was already very old. He was already in his 70s, nearing 80s. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the original website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2180. Qin Yiru was already weak when she was not pregnant. Now that she was pregnant, Gu Junjian had to support her even when she was walking. He was so careful that it was as if he was afraid that she would fall. If Gu Rumu were to hit Qin Yiru now, even if she did not have a miscarriage, she would be sent to the hospital. Moreover, Qin Yiru had just gotten pregnant, and her body was at its weakest. Gu Rumu's status in the Gu family was very high. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2181. Dad? This little girl just cursed you to die. You actually allowed them to enter our house? Guji listened to Gu Rumu's words and was stunned and puzzled. It had to be said that Gu Rumu's second son, Guji, was a brainless person. Why did he say that? Everyone present, as long as they were fools, could see that Yunjian had just taken Gu Rumu's hit, which meant that this teenage girl was not simple. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2182. The one who spoke was a young girl in her 20s. After hearing Gu Feng's words, she wasn't afraid of offending anyone. She said those words in front of Yun Jian and Yun Yi. "Sister Ling, don't say that. After all, they came back with Uncle Gu Junjian. My mother said that there's no difference between nobility and lowliness. They are now Uncle Gu Yunjian's flesh and blood." Gu Feng looked up at the young girl who spoke with some fear. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for the reading. Chapter 2183. Yun Jian's words were just to tell Yun Yi that he should never use such flashy moves against his enemies in the future. Otherwise, he would lose miserably. Usually, Yun Jian's enemies were the ones who would kill them. If Yun Yi were to use the moves of the Gu family's juniors on the training ground, whether the moves were beautiful, handsome, or not, and whether they could make the people around them scream and cheer, he would be able to match them against his enemies. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for the reading. Chapter 2184. Bao Lei of the Gale mercenary group was one of the international bigwigs that Yun Jian had met in Marilena's tomb some time ago. Bao Lei was indeed blind in one eye. He was a one-eyed wolf. However, he did not affect his own strength because he was blind in one eye. After returning to reality and hearing Yun Jian's last words, Gu Ling's expression froze. "You know Uncle Bao Lei. And you've been there before." This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. Chapter 2185. Gu Ling's words made Gu Zihao and the others, who had originally planned to hear Yun Jian praise their valiant movements on the training ground just now, stunned on the spot. What? Yun Jian said that their movements were flashy but not practical? She said that she could find 100 flaws in 1 minute? Gu Zihao and his brothers did not pay much attention to what Gu Ling said after that. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. Chapter 2186. It was true that Gu Zihao was the strongest among the younger generation in the Gu family. Because once they heard that Gu Zihao was going to fight someone, all the younger generation in the Gu family's training ground gathered. Have you heard? It is said that the boy who is going to fight Zihao is the only one who left the Gu family a few years ago. He is the son of Gu Yunjian's new wife and ex-husband. When I first heard about this, I was so angry. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. Chapter 2187. Yun Jian's words were directed at Shan Zihao. Only then did everyone recall that Yun Jian had said the word back a second before Shan Zihao made his move. Suddenly, they combined it with Yun Yi's technique. He dodged Shan Zihao's attack sideways and appeared behind Shan Zihao in a flash. Then, he kicked Shan Zihao to the ground from behind. From the looks of it, could it be that Yun Jian had come from Shan Zihao? This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for your reading. Chapter 2188. After Yun Jian's words sounded and fell, everyone present fell silent for 3 seconds. 3 seconds later, the color drained from Gu Ling's face as she stared at Yun Jian in a daze before she cried out in shock, "What's going on? You actually know how to hack? Modify the program, tamper with all the information that can be searched by the computer, and at the same time, lock the real information with a Trojan horse wall. Even the top international hackers can only access it. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the original website to pay for reading. Chapter 2189. Even if Gu Junjian was completely removed from the Gu family, even if he had to bear the infamy of abandoning the Gu family for a woman, he would definitely not let Qin Yiru down. After hearing Gu Yunjian's words, Yun Jian, who had just opened the door, was moved for a moment. At that time, Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru's backs were facing Yun Jian. Yun Jian could not see Gu Yunjian's and Qin Yiru's expressions, but she could see from the way Gu Junjian protected Qin Yiru and his unwavering words. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. Chapter 2190. When the words "New Cruise's director's mother" were uttered, everyone present was stunned. When they came to their senses, they were all shocked. The mother of New Cruise's director, Qin Yiru? What did she mean? What do you mean? Master Gu stared at Yun Jian blankly when he heard Yun Jian. Did she know what she was saying? Literally. I didn't know that the Gu family's status in Country Z is so high that even New Cruise feels inferior. Yun Jian's next words shocked everyone. My New Cruise? You're the director of New Cruise? Master Gu was stupefied when he heard Yun Jian. After recovering from his shock, he stared at Yun Jian. New Cruise was now an international company. The Gu family's company was at most a little famous in Country Z. For multinational companies like New Cruise, the Gu family could only look up to them. Although the Gu family was an armaments family, it was said that New Cruise had dealings with people from the black market. It was said that New Cruise rose to prominence in Longmen City back then, and the company was close to Longmen City's mafia group, Shi Province's top mafia group, Falcon Hall. It could be said that the Gu family was a wealthy and influential family. However, it paled in comparison to New Cruise. No. Impossible. The information shows that you're only. Even Master Gu, who had always been shrewd, was at a loss from Yun Jian's pressure. Great-grandfather, she said that she edited the information herself. Gu Ling spoke up just as old man Gu was shaking his head in bewilderment. Gu Ling was not likable, but she did not spout nonsense during critical moments like this. The Gu family was powerful and influential. Now that Master Gu was using his influence to force Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru to divorce, Yun Jian revealed her identity as New Cruise's director just to protect Qin Yiru. That was all. If Yun Jian did not reveal her identity, then according to what Master Gu had said just now, she was afraid that he would be ruthless to Qin Yiru. Gu Junjian immediately realized that Yun Jian was trying to protect Qin Yiru. After hearing this, he paused for a moment and immediately added on Yun Jian's behalf. Grandfather, my daughter is indeed the director of New Cruise. Yiru is the mother of New Cruise's director. Gu Junjian never lied. Therefore, Master Gu completely believed Gu Yunjian's words. When Master Gu turned to look at Yun Jian again, the color of his eyes seemed to have changed. The chairman of New Cruise was actually an 18-year-old girl. The extremely mysterious director of New Cruise was actually the daughter of Gu Yunjian's new wife, whom he had always thought of as an unfilial grandson. The news was so shocking that Master Gu could not snap out of it for a long time. Not only Master Gu, but everyone present also looked at Yun Jian in disbelief. However, just as everyone present was in shock and fear, a loud and strong male voice suddenly rang from outside the door. Haha. Gu family, what's up with today? It's so lively. The crowd turned to look and saw a big, burly man who was blind in one eye entering the house. The moment she saw the man, Yun Jian's eyes narrowed slightly. Uncle Bao Lei. Gu Ling exclaimed excitedly the moment she saw the man. Her voice was so loud that it was as if she was afraid that others would not know about her relationship with the man. The newcomer was none other than the leader of the Storm Mercenaries and the Rampage Mercenaries, Bao Lei. He was also the one-eyed man whom Yun Jian had met at Marilena's tomb previously. After meeting Bao Lei at Marilena's tomb, Yun Jian had made everyone present drink the 3-hour amnesia liquid, so Bao Lei must have forgotten about what happened at Marilena's tomb. As expected, after Bao Lei appeared, he only glanced at Yunjian briefly before turning his gaze to Master Gu. Master Gu, you're in a good mood. Is it not the right time for me to come today? After Bao Lei spoke, he also said a few words politely. How could that be? Come in and have a seat. Master Gu glanced sideways at Yunjian, then quickly gestured for Bao Lei to sit on a bench near the hall. We're all family. We're all family. Jun Jian, hurry up and ask your wife and children to sit down. Master Gu was indeed an experienced strategist. After learning about Yunjian's identity, he did not mention it again. Instead, his attitude toward Yunjian and Qin Yiru took a 360-degree turn. Bao Lei nodded and sat down. The people present were not inexperienced. Seeing this, they snapped out of their shock in the fact that Yunjian was New Cruise's director. Just as they snapped out of their daze, they saw Bao Lei, who had just sat down, staring at Yunjian for a few seconds. The next moment, under everyone's gaze, he suddenly frowned and spoke to Yunjian. This young lady, have we met before, eh? Chapter 2191. Everyone was shocked to see Bao Lei looking at Yunjian and asking such a question. What's wrong? Bao Lei, have you met her? Old man Gu was stunned when he heard this, and then he spoke. Bao Lei was a frequent visitor to the Gu residence. Although Bao Lei was the leader of the Rampage Corps of the International Gale Mercenary Group, Bao Lei's father was close to Master Gu. Bao Lei's father often visited the Gu residence when he was alive. Now that Bao Lei's father had passed away, Bao Lei remembered his father's memory and learned from his father's habits. As long as the Gale Mercenary Group was free, he would visit the Gu residence. She looks familiar, Bao Lei replied with a frown. Before Yunjian could say anything after Bao Lei said that, Gu Ling spoke before the rest of them and even pointed at Yunjian before he spoke. Uncle Bao Lei, it's her. She said at the Gu family's training ground that you were shocked when you saw the Gu family's training ground because you didn't have good taste. She said you were lying through your teeth. She even said you met her in Marilyn's tomb. Gu Ling was shocked when he found out about Yunjian's identity as New Cruise's director. However, Gu Ling did not know much about New Cruise. She thought New Cruise was definitely weaker than the Gu family's company. Of course, Gu Ling was shocked that Yunjian had founded her own company at such a young age. Comparing her to herself and her peers, there was no harm in comparison. Other than that, Gu Ling had no other thoughts. Originally, Gu Ling's words were said to Bao Lei in a complaining tone. When Bao Lei heard Gu Ling's words, he seemed to have recalled something. He grabbed the table beside the stool he was sitting on and stood up to tell Yunjian, Brother Gu Ling, please don't worry. Yes. It's Marilena's tomb. I remember now. I'm sure we met in Marilena's tomb. Bao Lei roared these words in an affirmative tone. Gu Ling had only wanted to complain. She did not expect Bao Lei to go along with what she said and stand up with a slap on the table in front of everyone to say that to Yunjian. When Yunjian saw this, she only narrowed her eyes slightly and did not say anything. At this moment, Gu Ling glared at Yunjian and asked Bao Lei all his questions. Uncle Bao Lei, if she also went to Marilyn's tomb, then don't you remember each other? Why does it sound like you lost your memory after coming out of a tomb? As it turned out, Gu Ling didn't know what happened in Marilena's tomb with the international bigwigs. Speaking of this, Bao Lei fell silent. After 2 seconds of silence, Bao Lei said, You're right. You're right. After we came out of Marilena's tomb, we lost our memory for 3 hours. When Bao Lei said this, his tone was unusually heavy. Ah. Gu Ling was stunned when she heard this. Uncle Bao Lei, could it be that you really lost your memories in Marilena's tomb? As Gu Ling said this, she suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. Her entire body trembled, and she was so frightened that her face lost its luster. In front of Master Gu and everyone else, Bao Lei nodded and responded, yes. This response caused everyone present, including Gu Zihao and the others, to feel a trace of trembling in their hearts. Why did losing one's memories in a tomb give people an indescribable feeling of strangeness and dread? And in the tomb, we can't remember anything about what happened in the tomb. By the way, young friend, you also lost your memory, right? As Bao Lei spoke, he turned his gaze to Yun Jian and used a scrutinizing gaze to slap her face. It was as if he was paying attention to Yun Jian's every move, afraid that he would miss any details. Chapter 2192. However, Bao Lei couldn't find any clues on Yun Jian's face. Novel, with the dream, WW, Suimeng, La, Yun Jian only blinked her eyes slightly. She used a voice that didn't make it seem like she was lying and said indifferently, yeah. Then I'm guessing that everyone who entered Marilena's tomb lost their memories. Bao Lei was clearly disappointed. After a moment of disappointment, he suddenly said, oh right, I made a friend in the tomb. He should be here soon. I'll introduce him to you later. Just as he finished speaking, a burly figure stopped outside the door and walked in. On this cold winter day, the owner of this figure only wore a vest and walked into the house from the door. This burly figure had 2 exposed arms. On his left arm was a tattoo of a male tiger, and on his right arm was a tattoo of a female tiger. It looked quite frightening. The person who came in was Tiger, ranked 2nd on the international assassin rankings. Tiger looked around. When he saw Yun Jian, his eyes fiercely moved, and then he walked toward Bao Lei. This is my friend, Mr. Shermi. Bao Lei walked over and pointed at Tiger as he introduced him to everyone. Tiger's identity naturally couldn't be easily announced to the public. Therefore, Bao Lei gave Tiger a proper name. Hello everyone. Tiger glanced sideways at everyone and revealed a fake smile. Finally, he turned his gaze to Yun Jian. Tiger only glanced at Yun Jian for a moment before he looked away without leaving a trace. When Master Gu saw Tiger's burly figure, he was stunned and asked Bao Lei. Little Lei, where is this friend of yours from? Master Gu had always respected people with great power. Moreover, Master Gu knew very well that people with great power generally liked to hang out with people with great power. They didn't care about those who didn't have the ability. It was obvious that Bao Lei had brought friends to the Gu family's house more than once. And for someone of Bao Lei's status, the friends he brought naturally weren't ordinary people. Socializing in high society was about introducing one's friends to each other. If they got along well, they would become friends and even cooperate in business. Of course, even if there wasn't any business cooperation, the necessary pleasantries couldn't be avoided. I'm just a nobody. There's no need to mention me, Tiger responded to Master Gu before Bao Lei could. Oh, old man Gu listened to old Tiger's words and nodded his head. That pair of shrewd eyes refracted a ray of light, but it quickly turned and disappeared. Master Gu was indeed a very snobbish fellow. But if Master Gu had to put it in his own words, his Gu family had been a rich and powerful family since the last century. Ordinary people really didn't catch his eye. Therefore, after hearing Tiger say that he was just a nobody, Master Gu ignored Tiger. Instead, he used a kind tone to ask Yun Jian about her well-being. Yun Jian's eyes darkened slightly. She answered Master Ji's question half-heartedly, but from the corner of her eye, she could feel Tiger and Bao Lei looking at her. Yun Jian didn't find it strange that Bao Lei would appear here. He, Tiger, ranked 2nd on the international assassin ranking, would disguise himself as a nobody and come to the Gu family's house. Or to put it another way. Did Tiger disguise himself as an ordinary person and come to the Gu family's house with Bao Lei to test her? Or did he really have a good relationship with Bao Lei and come out to relax? Just as Yun Jian was thinking about this, Tiger sized up Yun Jian again. He squeezed his thick eyebrows. Just as everyone forgot about the previous topic, he mentioned something to Yun Jian again. This young lady looks very familiar. Have we met at Marilena's tomb? It was this sentence again. Gu Ling was about to roll his eyes in boredom. Gu Feng, Gu Zihao, and the rest narrowed their eyes and didn't have much of a reaction. Qin Yiru, Gu Junjian, Yun Yi, and everyone else present had a flash of doubt in their hearts, but no one said anything. I heard from Lingling that she has indeed been to Marilena's tomb. Bao Lei added in a very normal manner. Tiger nodded when he heard this. Yun Jian looked up slightly but still didn't say anything. No one around them noticed anything unusual about Tiger and Bao Lei's conversation. Old Man Gu, on the other hand, narrowed his already narrowed eyes into a line. However, just as everyone thought that this conversation had ended, Tiger suddenly pulled out an unrecognizable lighter from his pocket. It was almost burnt out and showed it to Yun Jian. When she saw this lighter, Yun Jian's deep black eyes narrowed again. This was the lighter she used to burn her body in her previous life's coffin when she was in Marilena's tomb. Just as a sharp glint flashed in Yun Jian's dark eyes, she heard the tiger's roar. Then, young lady, may I ask if you have any impression of this lighter, eh? Chapter 2193. There was no doubt that the lighter was almost unrecognizable from the fire. However, it wasn't hard to tell that this lighter was the one she had thrown at the corpse of her previous life in the tomb and burned it to ashes. Novel, with the dream, W.W., Suimeng, La, Uncle Bao Lei, your friend is really a weirdo. What's there to recognize about this lighter? It's just a piece of scrap metal. Guling stared at the lighter for a long time before he finally opened his mouth and asked in confusion. Tiger wasn't from country Z, but his pronunciation was very accurate. None of the people present were surprised by this. The Gu family was a wealthy family after all. The younger generation of the Gu family was definitely more knowledgeable than ordinary people. Perhaps ordinary people would be shocked and incredulous if they saw that a foreigner like Tiger could speak Chinese with such accurate pronunciation. However, Guling and the others had grown up with higher education. They had seen many things and were naturally not surprised by such things. At this moment, Guling had finally voiced out everyone's doubts. What was there to recognize about this lighter? It was just a piece of scrap metal. Bao Lei only laughed silently and didn't reply to Guling. If it were anyone else, they would probably have told everyone everything that had happened in the tomb in a boastful tone. However, Bao Lei and Tiger were both influential figures internationally. Those in the underworld had to always remember one thing: speak less and do more. Bao Lei and Tiger knew this very well. Therefore, even if they were stupid, they wouldn't come forward to explain. To put it simply, Bao Lei and Tiger were much more meticulous than those small international figures. At this moment, Guling's words didn't attract anyone's attention. Tiger and Bao Lei both stared at Yun Jian, waiting for her reply. Seeing this, Yun Jian lowered her eyes and said, I don't remember. My memory only stops at the 3 hours before entering the tomb. Yun Jian's eyes were crystal clear, and her delicate and beautiful face was flushed red. Just like before, there was no change in her expression, and there was no trace of her lying. At least, Tiger and Bao Lei couldn't tell that Yun Jian was lying. Their black eyes flashed at the same time. Haha. It seems that the little girl is like us, she really lost her memory. After Tiger heard this, he put the lighter back into his trouser pocket and said with a smile. It was hard to tell if it was mockery, suspicion, or if it was a complete dismissal of his suspicions about Yun Jian. Everyone must be hungry, right? Judging from the time, lunch should be ready in the kitchen. Let's eat together, Master Gu said at this moment. After all, Master Gu was a rather dignified person. After he finished speaking, everyone immediately agreed. Yun Jian also followed them to the Gu family's big dining room. The Gu family had many dining rooms. They were divided into Dining Room 1, Dining Room 2, Dining Room 3, and so on. Today, Master Gu brought everyone to Dining Room 6 to eat rice and other main dishes. The Gu family's luxurious dining room wasn't just for show. This dining room's rectangular dining table was at least 20 meters long and 5 to 6 meters wide. It could seat dozens of people without feeling crowded. At this moment, Master Gu was sitting at the front of the table. It was the best seat, which symbolized the greatest authority. The dishes were slowly brought to the table. One by one, the maids brought all kinds of dishes to the table. It had to be said that the Gu family's lifestyle was very extravagant. At this moment, Yun Jian was sitting next to Qin Yiru. Next to her, the maids were serving the dishes one by one. Just as Yun Jian glanced to the side, the maid who was carrying a bowl of boiling seaweed soup to the table suddenly trembled. The boiling soup poured directly onto Yun Jian. Chapter 2194. Chapter 2195. Outside the villa, Yun Jian returned to the house after washing herself with cold water for a while. Yun Jian was actually fine. After soaking her body in the spring of Deity Continent for 666 days, even minor cuts and gunshot wounds could heal automatically in the shortest amount of time. As for the seaweed soup that was about 100 degrees Celsius poured onto Yun Jian's hand, she did not even feel the slightest pain. It was just that her hand was a little sticky, that was all. Even when Qin Yiru grabbed Yun Jian's hand to wash it with cold water, she could not help exclaiming in surprise when she saw that there was not even a hint of redness or burn marks on Yun Jian's hand. "Xiao Jian, why aren't there any burn marks on your hand when the seaweed soup is so hot?" "Mom." When she washed the back of her hand that was supposed to be burned with cold water, Yun Jian put her index finger to her lips and made a shushing motion. Qin Yiru kept her mouth shut and said nothing more. When they entered the villa, Yun Jian held her hand purposely as if she could not stand the burn. "Junjian, are you okay?" Master Gu asked after studying Gu Junjian with a gentle gaze. He was asking if Yun Jian was all right. No matter what the truth was, at least for now, the position of New Cruise's director was in Yun Jian's hands. When he found out that New Cruise's director was Yun Jian but suspected to be Gu Junjian, Master Ge's way of addressing Gu Junjian had changed. "Most of the soup was poured on the down jacket on my arm. My hand wasn't scalded much, so it's fine. When we go back tonight, I'll buy an ice cube from a shop outside. The swelling will go down tomorrow," Gu Junjian answered Master Gu. "Huh? Junjian, you guys aren't staying the night at the Gu residence?" Master Gu asked with a frown after hearing Gu Junjian's words. Everyone present saw Master Ge's change in attitude. How Master Gu treated Gu Junjian, Qin Yiru, and Yun Yi before this was how obvious his change was now. "Grandpa, do you wish for me to bring my wife and children to stay the night at the Gu residence?" Gu Junjian asked Master Gu in front of everyone. Gu Junjian was indirectly asking old Master Gu if he would accept his wife and children. If he didn't, then there was no need for him to stay here any longer. Master Gu was silent. A smart person like Master Gu naturally understood what Gu Junjian was implying. If he were to agree now, it would mean that he would have to accept Yun Jian and the rest. However, on second thought, if this unfilial grandson of Gu Junjian really gave the new cruise that he had worked so hard to manage to Yun Jian, he would not be able to live with himself if he did not find a chance to lecture him in private. Hence, Master Gu went all the way and replied, "We're a family now, why are you still being so considerate?" Qin Yiru was genuinely happy to hear that. At the same time, she heaved a huge sigh of relief. Before they came, Gu Junjian had already told Yun Jian and the rest about Master Ge's temper. He was a typical old-fashioned, feudalistic man. The only thing that could make Master Gu compromise was an international corporation that was more powerful than the Gu family. Old man Gu respected the strong very much. He was also in awe of those who had a higher status than his Gu family. Hence, he had agreed that if Master Gu refused to compromise, he would reveal that Yun Jian was the director of New Cruise. Reality proved that Gu Junjian understood Master Gu very well and Master Gu did not disappoint. Under the circumstances where Yun Jian's power was exposed, he gave in again and again. Since Master Gu had spoken, Gu Junjian naturally brought Yun Jian and the rest to stay. After all, whether it was Gu Junjian or Qin Yiru, they wanted to have normal relations with the Gu family. It would be best if they could reconcile. After knowing that Yun Jian would be staying, Tiger and Bao Lei also chose to stay at the Gu residence. Their reason was that they wanted to have a good talk with Master Gu at night about some business matters. As long as they mentioned business matters that would benefit them, Master Gu would agree without a doubt. In the afternoon, Gu Feng brought Yun Jian to the Gu family's courtyard for a tour. The Gu family's courtyard was huge and luxurious. Not only was there a specialized training ground, but there was also an archery range for archery, a shooting range for marksmanship, a swimming pool, and so on. The Gu family's buildings were similar to the only six-star hotel in the world, the Empire Hotel in Brunei. At the same time, when Gu Feng brought Yun Jian around for a tour, Gu Zihao and the rest who were training in the morning, including Gu Ling, tagged along. In reality, Master Gu was still unsure if new crews belonged to Gu Junjian or Yunjian. To avoid any mistakes, he had the younger generation of the Gu family follow Yunjian so that they could build a good relationship with Yunjian. Hence, Gu Ling and the rest tagged along unwillingly. When they arrived at the shooting range, Gu Zihao and the rest went to shoot. Seeing this, Gu Ling could not help hinting at Yunjian. "Weren't you pretty good at the training ground earlier? Do you know how to use a gun? Do you know how to shoot? Do you want my brothers to teach you and bring you to try it out, eh?" Chapter 2196. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Yunjian's abnormal behavior. Gu Ling was taken aback by Yunjian's familiarity with fighting techniques in the training ground just now. It had to be said that Gu Ling felt like he had eaten sheep shit at that time. Gu Ling was 20 years old, a young girl in her prime. Girls at this age were prideful, and after being dealt a huge blow by Yunjian, Gu Ling was in a bad mood. She didn't believe that Yunjian knew everything. She wasn't an all-round genius. Moreover, shooting wasn't something that could be learned with a single glance. She had asked her brother, Gu Zihao, to teach her how to shoot, but she never hit the target. How could Yunjian know how to shoot? Don't make me laugh. Just as Gu Ling was thinking, Yunjian spoke softly, "I don't know." Gu Ling heaved a sigh of relief when she heard Yunjian's reply. She knew that Yunjian would say that. After all, no one was perfect. How could there be an all-round person in this world? Gu Ling swayed her body and gave a look that said, "I know even if you don't say it." She then glared at Yunjian. "Then do you know how to shoot?" Gu Ling asked again. The biggest difference between shooting and archery was that shooting was done with a gun, and it was a test of accuracy. Archery, on the other hand, was done with a bow and arrow. Not only did it require accuracy, it also required the strength of the arm when shooting the arrow. At least in Gu Ling's opinion, archery was more difficult than shooting. If Yunjian didn't know how to shoot, then she definitely didn't know how to shoot. Sure enough, as Gu Ling expected, Yunjian replied with the same two simple words, "I don't know." Yo! Brother Zihao is amazing. Another 10 shots hit the bullseye 10 times. Our Gu family's all-round expert, it's you. Not only are you the strongest, you're also a good shot. Regardless of whether it's a gaming competition or an archery competition, you can easily get first place. You're F***king amazing. At this moment, someone from the Gu family started to exaggerate about Gu Ling's brother, Gu Zihao. An all-round expert. One had to know that if a person was only proficient in one ability, they might be able to brag about it in a certain field. However, if you were an all-rounder with skills and marksmanship, then even if you were weaker than others in one aspect, people would still call you a genius. When Gu Ling heard that his brother was being praised even more, he raised his head proudly and looked at Yunjian with his eyes that seemed to be showing off to Yunjian. For the whole afternoon, Gu Ling was in a state of showing off. At first, she hated Yunjian because Yunjian was too outstanding. Later, when he dragged Yunjian to many places in the Gu family, Gu Ling realized that Yunjian did not know anything at all. Other than the time when Yunjian pointed out Gu Zihao's weakness at the training ground so that Yun-Yi could defeat Gu Zihao, she did not know anything else. This made Gu Ling avoid Yunjian from the beginning. Later, he even pretended to be good friends with Yunjian and tried to get closer to Yunjian. "Yunjian, that's our Gu family's aquarium. It's big enough, right? You've never seen it before, right?" As Gu Ling spoke, he wanted to walk next to Yunjian like a pair of close friends. Yunjian avoided him discreetly. They spent the whole afternoon walking around the Gu family's house. However, the Gu family's house was big enough that they could see many things that could not be seen outside. Therefore, Gu Feng, Gu Ling, and Gu Zihao brought Yun Jian to walk around the Gu family's house. Gu Ling also thought that he had regained a lot of confidence from Yun Jian. She was just an ordinary person who did not know anything. It was not until 5:30 in the evening that the sun in the west officially set, and the last trace of afterglow was swallowed up by the night. It was winter in Zhe province, and the sky was almost completely dark by 5:30. Yun Jian felt that the figure who had been following them since the afternoon had left. She looked at everyone indifferently and said that she wanted to go back to her bedroom to rest. At that time, night had already fallen. There were only 2 shirtless men soaking in the cold winter water in the Gu family's swimming pool. Neither of them showed any signs of shivering from the cold water. On the contrary, in this weather that was almost -°C, these 2 shirtless men soaked in the swimming pool and looked relaxed. Looking closer, these 2 shirtless men were Tiger and Bao Lei, weren't they? At that moment, a figure suddenly flashed by from the side. Then, a man dressed in black and wearing a mask, revealing only a pair of dark eyes like 2 black holes, stood in front of Tiger and Bao Lei. Did you find anything? At that moment, Bao Lei's hands were lazily resting on the swimming tiles. He did not look at the person who appeared behind him and asked directly. No. I've been following her since this afternoon. She didn't notice me, and she doesn't even seem to know how to use a gun. At the shooting range, I heard her say with my own mouth that she doesn't know how to shoot. Top reading address A. Chapter 2197. The man with dark eyes and a black mask was dressed in black from head to toe. Obviously, he was Bao Lei's subordinate. Bao Lei was the captain of the Berserk army of the Gale mercenary group. The Berserk army had a total of 120 people, and every one of them was an elite among elites. The man who spoke to Bao Lei was one of the 120 people in the Berserk army. Other than the captain Bao Lei and the vice-captain, there was no one else in the Berserk army other than the captain. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. To support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2198. At this moment, Gu Ling was like a child who had lost his way. He reached out his hands to hug Gu Junjian, but Gu Junjian kept pushing him away. You deserve better. Besides, I already have a wife that I love. Gu Ling, get out of my way. Gu Junjian resisted Gu Ling's attempt to hug him as he retreated to the side. He looked like he was in a hurry to leave. No. No. I just like you. I just like Uncle Junjian. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. A. Chapter 2199. A shrill, panicked female voice rang out, and a panicked female silhouette walked past. Sui Meng Xiao. Say, Cirque. Sui Meng. One Athos woman was clearly an old employee of the Gu family. When she discovered the location of the fire, she hurriedly ran to find someone to put it out. At that moment, the woman was followed by a group of servants from the Gu family who had been called over to rescue her. Their noisy voices suddenly woke everyone up from the silence of the night. When the woman's voice rang out, Yun Jian also stopped walking toward the villa where Tiger and Bao Lei were. She called out to Gu Junjian and ran in the direction where the woman had gathered everyone to save someone. It was a villa that had been abandoned by the Gu family for many years. The villa was built in an old style, and at first glance, it looked like an old villa that had been built in the middle of the last century. At this moment, the fire in the villa was raging fiercely. The fire gathered together, giving the people standing in front of the old villa the illusion that the fire was so monstrous that it could even poke a hole in the sky. Io, save someone. Save someone. Someone's going to die. Someone carried an unconscious woman into this old villa. Someone's going to die. Why aren't you coming to save her? The woman who had discovered the fire earlier stood in front of the old villa and shouted loudly. Some of the more agile servants had already reacted. They carried buckets of water to the water source area to get water to put out the fire. Some of the servants tried to rush into the old villa where the flames had already reached the sky. However, the flames were simply too big, and ordinary people couldn't enter at all. Even if they did, they would definitely be burned alive. The woman in the old villa couldn't be a relative that they had to save, so the servants all stopped in their tracks. What's going on? What the hell is going on? Old Gu, who hadn't even changed out of his pajamas and only had time to put on a coat, hurriedly rushed over. When he saw the blazing fire in the old villa, he was so frightened that he stepped back fiercely. He didn't stop until he was supported by someone. At this moment, even Gu Ling, who had been rejected by Gu Junjian and was in a daze, had regained his senses and followed the others here. Seeing the towering flames, Gu Zihao and the others who had followed closely behind also stopped in their tracks. They were stunned. Master. Someone ran in here with an unconscious woman on his back. I thought it was strange, but I was patrolling, so I followed him in. Then what happened to you? I found out that the unconscious woman was actually young Master Gu Yunjian's new wife. What should I do now? I was a woman, so I definitely couldn't beat that man, so I ran to call for help. But when I called someone back, I saw that the villa was on fire. Fire. I was so scared that I ran to call for help. Now that the fire is so big, our people can't even go in. Someone has already called the police and the fire engine, but we're in the suburbs. It'll take at least half an hour for the fire engine to come. This person will be burned to a crisp inside. What should we do? The woman hurriedly walked in front of Grandfather Gu and said these words loudly. The woman's words confirmed that the person in the old villa was Qin Yiru without a doubt. The answer was obvious. The person who had drugged Qin Yiru was Tiger or Bao Lei's men. Yun Jian smirked coldly. She wanted to rush into the old villa to save her. Stay here obediently. I'll go. I'll definitely bring Yiru out safely. Gu Junjian stopped her and was about to rush into the old villa as he spoke. Uncle Junjian, you can't go. You can't go. I won't allow you to go. The fire here is so big, you'll only die if you go in. Let's wait for the fire engine to come. When Gu Ling saw that Gu Junjian wanted to rush into the villa, she hugged Gu Yunjian's thigh tightly, preventing Gu Junjian from going forward. The situation was so chaotic that no one had the time to care about Gu Ling's actions. No one is allowed to go. If you go, you can only send yourself to your death. Wait for the fire engine. Wait for the fire engine to come and put out the fire. Don't add to the casualties. Master Gu said sternly, stopping everyone's actions. At that moment, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She knew that this was a trap set up by Tiger and Bao Lei. Seeing that Gu Junjian was being held back in Master Ji's order, she walked toward the old villa without hesitation. In a flash, she entered the burning main door. Right after Master Gu finished speaking, someone pointed in the direction where Yun Jian had disappeared and exclaimed, attracting everyone's attention. She went in. She went in. Chapter 2200. Page 1/1. Just as Yun Jian entered the old mansion, a sharp glint flashed across Gu Yunjian's eyes. In the next second, he kicked Gu Ling, who was hugging his thigh, away and dashed into the old mansion as well amidst the gasps of the crowd. Junjian, come back. Come back. What are you doing? For a woman, you're crazy. When Master Gu saw Gu Junjian rushing into the burning old mansion, his eyes widened, and he shouted out in shock. However, Gu Junjian would not listen to Grandfather Gu. In a flash, he dashed into the door of the old villa that the group of servants did not dare to enter. The door had been completely burned by the fire, the door that the group of servants did not dare to enter. She really went into the old mansion? God! Is she not afraid of death? With such a big fire, even I don't have the confidence to go in. Gu Zihao stared blankly at Yun Jian rushing into the old mansion, and was unable to regain his senses for a long time. Previously at the training ground, although Yun Yi had defeated him, and it was Yun Jian who had pointed out his weakness, Yun Yi was able to defeat him. However, Gu Zihao was not convinced by Yun Jian's strength. She was just a girl, and a girl's strength could not be compared to a guy's. What about techniques? She was just a girl, how could she have so many techniques? Furthermore, previously at the training ground, he had been careless, and that was why Yun Yi's sneak attack was successful. Gu Zihao, who thought this way, had always thought that Yun Jian's strength was very ordinary. Perhaps some people were only good at talking, and could point out a person's weakness when watching them fight, but if they were to fight personally, they would not have any strength at all. In Gu Zihao's eyes, Yun Jian should be that kind of person. She was only good at talking, and could quickly find a person's weakness, but she did not have any strength. It's over, it's over. I think that house is about to collapse. Who knows how dangerous it is inside? If this person is pinned down, even the gods can't save her. When the woman saw this scene, she was scared out of her wits. Everyone present, without exception, thought that Yun Jian and Gu Junjian were finished this time. When Yun Yi heard that his mother was in the old mansion, and that Gu Junjian and his sister had rushed in to save her, his first reaction was to rush in as well. After that, the Gu family, who trained every day, joined forces to hold Yun Yi back, and did not let Yun Yi rush in to save her. Don't go in. Nobody is allowed to go in. You're going in, you're going in. However, at this moment, everyone's expression was still as lifeless as before. However, 1 minute passed. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes passed. Inside the crumbling mansion, Yun Jian and Gu Junjian were still nowhere to be seen. They couldn't have died in the sea of fire, right? Someone said in a soft yet terrified voice. Bah! Shut up. The people of my Gu family will not be buried in a sea of fire for a woman. Old man Gu shouted and stopped that person's words. 20 minutes had passed, and there was still no sign of them. Everyone started to panic. Originally, it would only take 3 minutes to walk from the furthest part of the old mansion to the main entrance. Now, 20 minutes had passed, and there was still no sign of them. What did this mean, Uncle Junjian? Gu Ling's cries could be heard from afar, and they would be affected by the sorrow and despair in his voice. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian and Gu Junjian would never come out, someone suddenly pointed at the mansion's main entrance and exclaimed. Look! There's someone. In the direction of his finger, 2 figures rushed out from the gate of the old villa. Gu Junjian carried the unconscious Qin Yiru and walked out of the mansion's main entrance with Yun Jian. Everyone heaved a huge sigh of relief when they saw this. However, just when everyone heaved a sigh of relief and completely relaxed, a cement wall on the second floor of the old mansion suddenly collapsed. It slanted down and crashed down on the spot where Gu Junjian was carrying Qin Yiru. Everyone's expression changed drastically when they saw this. No! Master Gu shouted. He was so scared that his expression changed. Just when everyone thought that the huge, collapsing cement wall would crash down on Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru, who was in Gu Yunjian's arms, everyone suddenly saw a scene that made them extremely terrified and dumbfounded. Top reading website, M.A. Chapter 2201. A. Chapter 2202. A. Chapter 2203. Yun Jian's words caused Tiger and Bao Lei, who were hiding in the dark, to stop in their tracks. She discovered us? She even discovered that we were trying to sneak away? When did she discover us? Tiger and Bao Lei twitched their lips. There's no one in the dark because of the forest. Yun Jian, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Gu Ling was shocked by the scene just now. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for your reading. A. Chapter 2204. Tiger's words entered everyone's ears word by word. Everyone knew that Yun Jian had been to Marilena's tomb. However, everyone thought that Yun Jian had been to Marilena's tomb. That was true, but she had been to Marilena's tomb. She was at most cannon fodder, right? When the international bosses were fighting over the female corpse, she was at most a coward hiding in a corner, trembling and not daring to make a sound. There was a type of person who would be scared to death in a formal setting. She would cower in a corner and not even dare to speak to anyone. However, after leaving a formal setting and returning to school, this person would be very cocky in front of her classmates. She would then boast about what she had seen in a formal setting and exaggerate. In fact, she would be so scared that she would hide in a corner and not dare to speak to anyone in a formal setting. Everyone thought that Yun Jian was that kind of person. She would rely on the fact that she had been to Marilena's tomb. Even if she had cowered in a corner and shivered in Marilena's tomb, she would act like she was the king in Marilena's tomb when she left Marilena's tomb and returned to school or her relatives. However, Tiger's words completely dispelled everyone's opinion of Yun Jian. Burn the female corpse? Even if she's really the director of new crews, even if she crushed the cement wall with a stomp, weren't there many international bosses fighting over the female corpse in Marilena's tomb? Before those international bosses, she should be a nobody who can't even lift her head. How could she have the ability to burn the female corpse? Guling asked in a daze after hearing Tiger's words. No matter how powerful Yun Jian was among the people, no matter how awesome she was, she should only be a coward in a place like that. How could she have burned the female corpse in front of everyone and come out alive? Furthermore, Tiger's words implied that the people who explored Marilena's tomb lost their memories, and it had something to do with Yun Jian? No one paid any attention to Guling's words. Tiger met Yun Jian's eyes and waited for Yun Jian's reply. So you even checked the fingerprints on the lighter? No wonder you were so sure that she was the one who burned the female corpse from the very beginning. Bao Lei didn't know about this at first, so he tilted his head to look at Tiger and said this in a daze. No wonder. Tiger firmly believed that Yun Jian was the one who burned the female corpse. So it was because he had already proven this point. Just after Bao Lei finished his words, a sound of nature, but it was very light, but it gave people a sense of fear. Suddenly, a female voice sounded. I didn't look for you, but you came to me on your own accord. The person who spoke was none other than Yun Jian. At that moment, Yun Jian suddenly spoke to Tiger in front of all the suspicious people present. Hearing this, Tiger, who had long forgotten Yun Jian's identity, was suddenly stunned. Before Tiger could react, he saw Yun Jian take another step toward him and say softly, At Marilena's tomb, I wanted to let you go. At the end of these words, Tiger and Bao Lei widened their eyes. What did she say? Everyone's expression froze, and some of them didn't even dare to breathe heavily when they heard this. Just as everyone's breathing quickened, Yun Jian's voice rang out again. However, in the next second, Yun Jian's words made Tiger, Bao Lei, Guling, Gu Zihao, Master Gu, and everyone present widen their eyes in shock and fear. However, it's your fault for not cherishing your lives and insisting on challenging my bottom line again and again. Tiger, second on the international assassin ranking, and Bao Lei, leader of the Gale mercenary group and the Berserk group. Do you want to try dying under my butterfly knife again, A? Chapter 2205. A. Chapter 2206. There was only one person in the world who had interfered with Tiger's 9 assassination missions and caused Tiger to only fail 1 assassination mission because of himself. Others might not have understood what Yun Jian was saying, but Tiger was well aware. That person was none other than, you are. Tiger's mouth was wide open as he stared at Yun Jian in a daze. Just as he was about to say this, he suddenly paused. Novel, with the dream, W.W., Sui-Meng, La, Yun Jian had already come before him, twirling that eye-catching butterfly knife. When the others heard Yun Jian's words, they were stunned. It was because Yun Jian knew so much about Tiger's identity. She even knew how many assassination missions Tiger had gone out on, the number of times he had completed them, and even the fact that he had been interfered with by others. She also said, the person who had interfered with Tiger's 9 assassination missions and caused Tiger's assassin life to fail 9 missions out of thin air was actually Gu Yunjian's new wife, the child of Qin Yiru and her ex-husband. Yun Jian. What kind of background did she have? She actually had the ability to interfere with the mission of the second-ranked assassin on the international assassin ranking. If that was the case, then wouldn't Yun Jian's ability be even more powerful than the second-ranked assassin on the international assassin ranking, Tiger? Master Gu, Gu Ling, and Gu Zihao all stared blankly at the scene in front of them. They were so frightened that they almost couldn't move. At that moment, Yun Jian was standing less than 5 meters away from Tiger. She twirled the butterfly knife in a circle, then stood in front of Tiger, her eyes slightly dark. It was also because of Yun Jian's twirling of the butterfly knife that the 2 words that Tiger was about to blurt out were instantly swallowed back into his stomach. But Tiger's eyes were so wide that they were almost popping out of their sockets, revealing the fear, horror, and astonishment he was feeling at that moment. She was, except for her. There was no one else in this world who could play with the butterfly knife so smoothly and speak to him in such a manner. Tiger froze on the spot. He widened his eyes and stared at Yun Jian, as if he wanted to tear a crack out of Yun Jian. Who is she? Bao Lei heard Tiger's words and suddenly asked Tiger who Yun Jian was. Bao Lei had already forgotten what had happened in Marilena's tomb that day, so he naturally didn't know what Yun Jian meant. At this moment, he suddenly heard Tiger looking at Yun Jian with his eyes wide open. Bao Lei hurriedly spoke up. Everything that had happened in Marilena's tomb that day made Bao Lei deeply suspicious. Bao Lei desperately wanted to know the truth about what had happened in Marilena's tomb that day. This was because the female corpse that had been incinerated that day was most likely the #1 secret agent on the international secret agent ranking, slaying God. Bao Lei desperately wanted to know what had happened in Marilena's tomb. Tiger and Bao Lei's main purpose for coming here was to investigate the female corpse that Yun Jian had incinerated. They wanted to know if the female corpse's true identity was the #1 secret agent on the international secret agent ranking, slaying God. However, just as Bao Lei was urgently asking Tiger about Yun Jian's identity, Yun Jian suddenly spoke up, speaking to Bao Lei before Tiger could. However, the words that came out of Yun Jian's mouth were as if she knew everything about Bao Lei. That level of understanding of Bao Lei's identity made even Bao Lei widen his eyes in disbelief. Everyone present was even more shocked. Anyone in the underworld should know this principle. The less you know, the longer you live. Bao Lei, as the leader of the Rampage Corps, your Rampage Corps has always been weaker than Cotton's Corps under your leadership. The root of the problem is that you're too nosy, Bao Lei. A. Chapter 2207. Yun Jian's words hit the nail on the head, leaving no room for sentiments. Follow your dreams? Speak as if you're going to die. If the crowd had heard Yun Jian's words before, they would have thought that Yun Jian had lost her mind when she spoke to Bao Lei in such a tone. How could she speak to Bao Lei in such a tone? However, now that Yun Jian had said something like that, even though they did not know Yun Jian's identity, they knew that even Tiger, the #2 assassin on the international assassin ranking, was no match for Yun Jian. Although they were stunned, they could not accept the fact that Yun Jian had spoken to Bao Lei in such a tone. What shocked the crowd was who Yun Jian was. Not only did she know everything about Tiger, but she also knew about Bao Lei's identity and his position in Hurricane Mercenaries. Not only that, she seemed to know the other leader of Hurricane Mercenaries very well, and that leader's position in Hurricane Mercenaries seemed to be very high. His position seemed to be even higher than Bao Lei's. Yun Jian, on the other hand, seemed to know everything about the identities and positions of these international big shots. It was as if there was no one she did not know. Even if she had purposely tried to find out about them, it should only be about a few individuals, right? Now that she was facing Tiger and Bao Lei, she was able to find out about their identities and even tell them things that surprised them. If she was only the chairman of new crews, she would only be a legitimate force. How would she know about such things that lean towards the underworld? Why, you know, Cotton. When Bao Lei heard Yun Jian's words, he was shocked that Yun Jian knew so much about his identity and position. He was also shocked that Yun Jian knew that his position in Hurricane Mercenaries was not as high as Cotton's and that he had always seen Cotton as a thorn in his side. Yun Jian's words shocked Bao Lei. Perhaps. Yun Jian turned her head to look at Bao Lei. She didn't give Bao Lei an absolute reply. Instead, she gave him a beautiful smile. Perhaps we should settle our old scores first. You sent someone to drug my mother, brought her into the villa, and set the villa on fire. Think about it, if I was just an ordinary person, wouldn't my mother be buried in the sea of fire? I'll have to settle this debt with the two of you one by one. Yun Jian curled her lips slightly, but the words that came out of her mouth caused Tiger and Bao Lei to tremble. Especially Tiger. Tiger already knew Yun Jian's identity. If Tiger had dared to stand out and humiliate Slaying God's body back in Marilena's tomb, that was because Slaying God was dead and he had nothing to fear. However, Slaying God was standing right in front of him, alive and well. Tiger had experienced Slaying God's ability before. When Slaying God was still alive, even if there were 10 tigers standing together, they might not even be able to touch the corner of her clothes. Therefore, Tiger was completely terrified when he found out about Yun Jian's identity. Bao Lei trembled because he was like a naked child at that moment. Yun Jian seemed to know everything about his identity. However, he knew nothing about Yun Jian's identity. This made Bao Lei panic and he shuddered involuntarily. Then, I'll cripple one of your hands each. Yun Jian curled her lips. Her lips were so cold that they were merely curled into a smile, but that was what she said. What? She's going to cripple one of their hands each? Isn't her mother fine? Gu Ling's eyes widened when he heard that. He was so shocked that he froze. Shut up. Don't make a sound. At this moment, Old Master Gu was very clear that the current situation was no longer something that the Gu family could control. Therefore, he shouted at Gu Ling softly, forcing Gu Ling to swallow all the words that he wanted to say. Fortunately, the old villa was engulfed in flames. The loud crackling of the fire prevented Gu Ling and Master Ji's words from reaching Yun Jian and Tiger's ears. Gu Ling rolled his eyes, thinking that Yun Jian did not even know how to shoot. How could she be a match for the two international figures? He was waiting for the moment when Yun Jian's lie would be exposed. Bang! Bang! 2 gunshots suddenly rang out. Chapter 2208. Gu Ling had just rolled his eyes at Yun Jian when he saw Yun Jian suddenly lift up the corner of her shirt. There was actually a silver pistol hidden in the corner of her shirt. And the silver pistol was hidden in the waist case under the corner of her shirt. Sui Meng? Small say, Sui Meng. Lot that moment, without waiting for Gu Ling to react, Yun Jian held the pistol and fired at Tiger and Bao Lei without even looking up. The speed of the gun was so fast that it was impossible to see it clearly with the naked eye. At least Gu Ling was shocked. Gu Zihao and the rest were also stunned as they watched the 2 bullets shoot at Tiger and Bao Lei at lightning speed. Just as Gu Ling thought that Yun Jian's 2 shots were just a bluff and that she didn't even know how to shoot and definitely didn't know how to use a gun, he saw the 2 bullets shoot at Tiger and Bao Lei's left wrists one after the other. They went straight into their meridians without missing a beat. Oh my God. This shooting skill. She didn't even look up just now. Some people didn't even have time to be shocked that Yun Jian had a gun on her. When they saw this scene, their faces all changed in shock. At that moment, Bao Lei, who had been shot in the wrist by a bullet, clearly felt that his hand had been crippled by Yun Jian's bullet. Only then did he react. Bao Lei fiercely held his wrist and glared at Yun Jian. You! Just as Bao Lei was about to hit Yun Jian to get back at her for his crippled hand, Tiger frowned. He didn't care about his crippled hand and used his other hand to grab Bao Lei's hand. We're no match for her. Tiger's words made everyone present so shocked that they couldn't use words to describe it. What? Even old man Gu widened his eyes and shouted in fear and astonishment. What did Tiger just say? Both he and Bao Lei were no match for Yun Jian even if they worked together. How was this possible? Who was the daughter of Gu Yunjian's new wife? The Gu family members present, including the group of juniors led by Gu Ling and Gu Zihao, all widened their eyes in disbelief when they heard old Tiger's words. I'm willing to be crippled for this. Today, I was rash. We're all in the same boat, so please show mercy. Tiger, I'll take my leave first. Tiger had no choice but to rein in his uncouth nature. He had to lower his head in front of slaying God. After saying that to Yun Jian, Tiger gestured at Bao Lei, then turned around and left the place in a flash. Yun Jian did not stop him. Tiger, ranked second on the international assassin chart, had submitted himself to Yun Jian. He did not even dare to say a word when one of his hands was crippled. Who was this Yun Jian? Although Bao Lei was suspicious and liked to poke his nose into other people's business, he was still the leader of the internationally renowned Rampage Corps. How could he survive without a brain? Therefore, not long after Tiger left, Bao Lei said something similar to what Tiger said to Yun Jian before turning to leave. Xiao Lei, you. Master Gu wanted to say something. However, Bao Lei did not even look at Master Gu and left in a hurry. They thought that Tiger and Bao Lei would go berserk after one of their hands was crippled by Yun Jian and retaliate against Yun Jian. However, what Gu Ling, Gu Zihao, and the rest of the younger generation of the Gu family did not expect was that Tiger and Bao Lei did not attack Yun Jian together as they had expected. In fact, they even ran away in fright. At the same time, Yun Jian wiped her silver pistol. Her sharp, eagle-like eyes scanned the crowd before she walked toward the main entrance of the Gu residence. Naturally, she was going to check on Qin Yiru. After old Tiger and Bao Lei left and Yun Jian walked to the door, old man Ji's heart finally calmed down. He heaved a huge sigh of relief and turned to look at the Gu family members, saying, "Let's go. You must forget everything that happened today as soon as possible. If anyone mentions it again in the future, you will be punished according to the family rules, eh?" Chapter 2209. Master Gu was no doubt an astute person. He had already realized the severity of the matter. If what happened today were to spread out in the Gu family, the consequences would be unthinkable. The family discipline that Master Gu mentioned was the harshest punishment in the Gu family. Do as you wish. Say/sh/. Suamenji. 1A Master Ge's words made everyone present aware of the severity of the matter, so none of them spoke of it. Even Gu Ling was forced to keep his mouth shut, not daring to utter a word. How was it enough to cripple one of Tiger and Bao Lei's hands? As for how to deal with Tiger and Bao Lei, Yun Jian had her own ideas. Just as Yun Jian reached the gate, she saw that Gu Junjian and Yun Yi had already helped Qin Yiru back to the Gu family's villa. The fire truck had finally arrived as well. It took less than 3 minutes for the fire truck to put out the blazing fire in the old villa. It was a false alarm, but it was a close call. Hearing Master Ge's words, the Gu family went to sleep as if nothing had happened. It was unfortunate that this night was not destined to be a peaceful one. At 3 in the morning, when everyone was still asleep, Yun Jian stood up and left the Gu family's villa quietly, coming to the gate that was quite far away from the Gu family's villa. At this time, even the guards at the gate were fast asleep. Yun Jian leaped out of the Gu family's gate easily and went outside. Not long after that, a private helicopter landed on the ground. Yun Jian hopped onto the chopper lightly and it soared into the sky. Sister Jian. The pilot of the helicopter was still in the air when a young girl walked over from the side. It was Qin Yu. Amen, Yun Jian replied and continued, "Are the grenades ready?" "Ready. The grenade that I prepared is powerful enough." It was the organization's newest product. Not only was it powerful, but it could also explode on objects that were prone to exploding. Outsiders would not be able to tell that the explosion was caused by the bomb. Let's try it out today. Qin Yu nodded at Yunjian. She was holding a grenade that looked like a miniature bomb in her hand. The grenade was tossed and held in her hand, toying with it. Although this thing was small and no different from a miniature bomb, the gunpowder inside it was more powerful than any bomb. Leaving Wenyu City, Xia Province, Tiger drove a black Bugatti Veyron to the airport where he came from. His hand was on the steering wheel, and his forehead was almost covered with sweat. Outsiders might not know slaying God's temper, but how could he not? Slaying God had never shown mercy to anyone who dared to lay a finger on her. Tiger began to flee with the thought that slaying God would let him go. As the number 2 assassin on the international assassin chart, Tiger was so terrified that his legs were trembling. At the same time, the black Bugatti Veyron was driving on the deserted highway. Looking down from the night sky, one could only see the black Bugatti Veyron speeding across the highway. Apart from that, there was no sound of any other car within the range of the black Bugatti Veyron's headlights. Below the clouds, Yun Jian, who was sitting in the private helicopter, had one hand pressed against the helicopter's window while the other held a pair of binoculars. She watched the black Bugatti Veyron that was fleeing alone on the highway lazily. Drive lower and descend slowly until you're 50 meters above the car below, Yun Jian said. The pilot did as he was told. Yun Jian still had one hand on the helicopter's window as she narrowed her eyes and watched the fleeing black Bugatti Veyron through the binoculars. It was as if she was in control of everything, as if the entire world was her world. She was the master of everything in this world. Sister Jian, there's a bumpy road at the end of this highway. The car will definitely slow down on the bumpy mountain road, Qin Yu told Yun Jian after a careful inspection. When we passed by the rugged mountainous area and the car started to decelerate, land the helicopter at a height of 30 meters from the car, Yun Jian said softly with a smirk. As she spoke, she put down the binoculars she had been using and went to the helicopter's door to pull it open. At the same time, Tiger saw the rugged highway. His eyes shone with a desire to survive as he stepped on the accelerator and drove the car toward the rugged highway at lightning speed. Slaying God. Don't let him escape from Country Z, or he, Tiger, swore that he would cut slaying God into pieces. At this moment, the Tiger's body had already arrived at the rugged highway. The moment the Tiger's car drove over the rugged highway, it didn't slow down at all. Instead, it stepped on the accelerator and rushed over. Almost there. Almost there. As long as he drove past here, Tiger would reach the airport. Even slaying God would not be able to do anything to him. Just as Tiger's grin widened, thinking that he had escaped Yun Jian's clutches, vroom, vroom, vroom. There was the sound of huge wings flapping. From the rearview mirror, Tiger saw a helicopter descending at a rapid speed. The exterior of the helicopter was engraved with the exclusive skull of Kosha mercenaries. It was, no, 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 no. Tiger slammed on the brakes non-stop. The dignified Tiger on the international ranking list of assassins was actually forced to this extent. Such a scene was seen by the international people. After all, they were shocked on the spot. But at this moment, everything was so smooth and natural. In the helicopter, Yun Jian leaned her hand lazily against the door. The door was already open, but she did not look like she was afraid that she would be flung out of the helicopter. Give me the grenade. Yun Jian stretched her hand out lazily. Qin Yu passed the grenade to Yun Jian. Yun Jian grinned suddenly after taking the grenade. The angle and height where the helicopter was parked were instructed by Yun Jian. Yun Jian knew about this angle and height as well. Tiger, who was sitting in the black Bugatti Veyron, could see Yun Jian, who was standing at the door through the rearview mirror. Yun Jian suddenly extended her hand and bared her teeth. She waved at Tiger, who was sitting in the black Bugatti Veyron, bidding him farewell. Tiger, who saw Yun Jian's gesture, was scared out of his wits. His hands that were steering the black Bugatti Veyron began to slip. Yun Jian's gesture meant that she was bidding him farewell. It was then that Tiger saw Yun Jian biting the grenade open and tossing it toward his black Bugatti Veyron sports car through the rearview mirror. Chapter 22:10. Following Tiger's deafening no, Tiger and his black Bugatti Veyron exploded on the spot. Thankfully, there were no cars nearby. With Tiger and his black Bugatti Veyron as the center point, everything within a 10-meter radius was blown to smithereens by the explosion. Novel, with the dream, WW, Suemang, La. At the same time, Tiger's indignant and furious roar was drowned out by the explosion. Even in death, Tiger would never forget Yunjian's smirking face. 5 minutes after the explosion, there was complete silence. The black Bugatti Veyron was so badly damaged that it was unbearable to look at. At the same time, the Tiger's corpse was lying in the black Bugatti Veyron sports car. Even the corpse had been blasted beyond recognition by the power of the explosives. Even the Tiger's corpse was black, as if it had come out of a garbage dump. After checking that Tiger was completely asphyxiated, Yunjian turned around and walked toward the helicopter. Qin Yu ran over and winked at Yunjian. How is it? How is it? It's our organization's newest grenade. How's its power? This grenade is light and easy to carry. It looks like a mini bomb, but its power is much greater than the largest grenade. And it's the key point. Under certain circumstances, a car will explode. Therefore, it's an explosive object. With our newest grenade, even an international bomb disposal expert won't be able to tell that the car was blown up by the grenade. Because once it explodes, everything inside and outside will be burned to ashes. It's like the grenade wasn't used. When someone finds out that the car and the people in it are dead tomorrow, they'll only think that the car exploded while driving. No one will guess that it was blown up by a grenade. Qin Yu explained as she surrounded Yunjian, winking at Yunjian from time to time. Yunjian took 2 steps toward the helicopter and stopped abruptly. She looked up and met Qin Yu's eyes. So, you're saying that you made this grenade? Wow, Sister Jian, you're so good. You hit the nail on the head. Qin Yu chuckled and put on a smug expression. What do you think, Sister Jian? Am I awesome? Just praise me, Sister Jian. Quick, praise me. If you praise me, I can laugh for a year. It was not easy for Qin Yu to develop a weapon. She had pestered Yunjian for so long just to get Yunjian to praise her. Yunjian took 2 steps forward. After taking 2 steps, Yunjian paused and turned around abruptly to glance at Qin Yu from the corner of her eyes. Her pretty lips curled up as she gave the highest compliment, amazing. Qin Yu was mesmerized by her words. Even if Yunjian suggested that they were going to do something big now, Qin Yu would probably charge forward without hesitation. The next morning, Yunjian, who had stayed at the Gu family for the night, woke up early. Yunjian had only slept for 2 hours. She left at 3 in the morning and returned at 4 in the morning. No one in the Gu family knew that Yunjian had left. Yunjian pretended that nothing had happened as well. Xiao Jian, you're up. Morning. Yunyi had just woken up and was about to go for a morning run when she bumped into Yunjian. Emin, brother, morning. Yunjian nodded. She was about to walk out of the Gu family's gate. Hey, are you guys going for a morning run too? A voice rang out. It was Gu Zihao. Gu Zihao and his group acted like nothing had happened as they greeted Yunjian and Yunyi. Gu Zihao was not a bad person. He was just a little boastful and looked down on girls. Other than his first time, Gu Zihao was quite masculine and righteous. Compared to his sister Gu Ling's narrow-mindedness, it was a stark contrast. Yeah, Yunyi replied to Gu Zihao. After Qin Yiru came back yesterday, Gu Zihao had asked Yunyi about Qin Yiru's injury. After that, Gu Zihao told Yunyi that he had admitted defeat. Initially, he was still a little indignant, thinking that he had lost because he did not make the right move and underestimated Yunyi. But until now, Gu Zihao had really admitted defeat to Yunyi. Perhaps this change started after Yunjian injured Tiger and Bao Lei and even forced Tiger and Bao Lei to retreat. Gu Zihao knew that Yunyi's skills were taught by Yunjian. And last night, Yunjian's performance shocked Gu Zihao. Gu Zihao thought about it. If he had been the person last night, he would not have dared to rush into the old villa to save her. And Yun Jian, Gu Junjian, and Yun Yi had all rushed in as if their lives depended on it. Even when Yun Yi was held back by more than a dozen adults in the end and did not rush in, the way he turned around and rushed in when he found out that his mother was trapped in the old mansion and his younger sister and father rushed in to save her was definitely not a joke. It was all part of a show. And later, when she faced Tiger and Bao Lei, Yun Jian's fearless performance. Disregarding everything else, Yun Jian's aura and her fearless demeanor when she was facing two international celebrities was something that Gu Zihao would never be able to emulate even if he wanted to in his lifetime. Then let's go together. Gu Zihao tilted his head and gestured to Yun Yi and Yun Jian. When they came back from their morning run, the Gu family had already started eating. Breakfast was a very nutritious combination of meat and vegetables, with some Westerners' breakfast ingredients in it. As usual, Master Gu was sitting at the head of the table, reading the newspaper and waiting for breakfast to be served one after another. Just as Master Gu was reading the newspaper and everyone in the Gu family was sitting at the table, Master Gu suddenly screamed in horror. He threw away his usual image, and his face was ashen. Dead. Mr. Shermi, no, it should be Tiger, the second on the international ranking of killers. He's dead, eh? Chapter 22:11. At that moment, Yun Jian had just taken her seat with everyone present. Everyone in the Gu family had also taken their seats at this large and long table that could accommodate dozens of people at one time without being crowded. Master Gu was so distraught that he shouted these words at breakfast time without caring about his image. This had never happened before. At that moment, everyone present was stunned when they heard the news of Tiger's death. Hearing this, even Gu Ling, who had been secretly watching Gu Junjian cut a piece of steak from his bowl, suddenly gasped when he was scalded by the cooked steak. After hearing Master Ji's words, Gu Ling shouted in horror, "Dead? Someone died? That person from yesterday died? I remember that person was the culprit behind the kidnapping of that woman. He died, this." The woman was, of course, Qin Yiru. As Gu Ling spoke, he turned his head sideways to glance at Yun Jian. However, he saw Yun Jian calmly cut the steak, chewed it slowly, and swallowed it as if nothing had happened. After hearing Gu Ling's words, she neither admitted nor denied it. However, it was precisely this kind of ambiguous feeling that made everyone present feel an indescribable sense of fear. Was this Yun Jian's doing? Cough, cough, cough. Eat, eat, eat. Master Gu was so engrossed in reading the newspaper that he didn't even realize that his breakfast had been served by the maids. Master Ji's reaction was, of course, because he had expected it. Although Yun Jian didn't kill Tiger in front of everyone, but who knows if she actually went out to kill the tiger last night. Old Master Gu was not a person who was frightened to death. After all, Master Gu was also a veteran who had participated in the anti-Japanese war. It wasn't surprising that he had seen countless people die. However, what shocked Master Gu was that Tiger, who was ranked second on the international ranking of assassins, had been killed. Moreover, the newspaper reported that Tiger's death was caused by a car explosion. But how could it be so coincidental? After Tiger provoked Yun Jian, his hand was crippled and he hurriedly fled the scene, and the car exploded. Bang! Master Gu, who was still thinking about the problem, suddenly snapped back to reality. At this moment, Master Gu was so scared that his entire body trembled. When he came back to his senses, he saw that Yun Jian had already stood up. She smashed her plate on the dining table, deliberately making a loud noise. The steak on the plate had already been finished by Yun Jian. Master Gu, who had suddenly heard the noise, was so frightened that he quickly raised his head to look at Yun Jian. However, he only saw Yun Jian's eyes move slightly, and her sharp eyes met his. Master Gu was so frightened that he swallowed hard. Then, he looked at Yun Jian and said, "You, old man, you don't have to say much." When the fire in the villa was put out yesterday, I already know that you called my father away to ask about the owner of New Cruise. If you want to know about this, why did you call my father away secretly and even scold him for being unfilial? You can just ask me about this. Now, I can clearly tell you that I founded New Cruise single-handedly. The president of New Cruise is my subordinate. Everything that the president of New Cruise who represents the company at events is controlled by me. Yun Jian's words suddenly echoed, and at the same time, it stirred up a wave of emotions in everyone's hearts. Was New Cruise really hers? If Yun Jian had said this yesterday, no one would have believed her. However, after experiencing the series of events last night, no one dared to doubt that Yun Jian was the director of New Cruise. Just as everyone was still in shock, Yun Jian spoke again. So, if we're talking about family background, it should be the Gu family that's not worthy to speak to someone as noble as my mother. I agree wholeheartedly that my father wants to cut ties with the Gu family. At this point, everyone was shocked again. However, that was not the end of it. Just as everyone calmed down from their shock, another wave swept over them. Meeting old man Ge's eyes in front of everyone, Yun Jian suddenly grinned as her eyes flickered and the corners of her lips curled up as she said, "You're right. Also, I don't mind telling you that I did kill Tiger with a grenade." Chapter 22:12. Before Yun Jian could react, Ce pressed her against the door and kissed her wildly. By then, her top had already disappeared. Ce was really impatient. After he took off her clothes, he didn't even wait to carry her to the bed. He pressed her against the door and, "Ce, Gij. Sister. Lan Su, Gij asked us to invite you guys to go to the fireworks event. It's so fun. There's so much fun." This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. Chapter 22:13. The sudden appearance of Adam caused Lan Su's heart to jump in shock. Even the cup of malatang in his hand slipped due to Adam's roar, causing the scalding hot soup to spill out of the cup and onto his hand. "Woo, mama, mama." Zhou Yiran saw that Lan Su was scalded by the cup of malatang and was so scared that he started crying loudly. Lan Su was still unable to react for a moment. Her hand was scalded by the malatang. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. To support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.